I did. Nice to be in orbit.
All right. Welcome, everyone, back to the Gnomon live stream. I'm your host, Adam Hartel, and we have got an awesome night in store for you. This is our live stream, our Halloween event, Creature Feature. And really, it's a dream team of concept artists, creature concept designers who are going to be with us tonight. It's going to be a hang. They're going to be drawing together, talking about what they do. You'll have a chance to ask questions in the chat. But before we get into all that, before I introduce them, I'd like to just give a shout out to Lenovo and give thanks to them for sponsoring tonight's event. It's because of their support that we're able to offer amazing events like this to you regularly. And so with that, guys, I just want to introduce our fantastic guests who are going to be with us. The first that I'll introduce, we'll just kind of bring everybody on one by one as I read their bios. But the first I'd like to introduce is Jerad Marantz, who is a creature designer and concept artist, a writer, and a director. Jerad started his career at an early age interning for a special effects house. Trying a little bit of everything enabled him to narrow his focus to creature design and concept art. His acquired skills in sculpture, painting, illustration, 3D modeling, and Photoshop all aid his unique sense of design. Marantz's many credits span over the film, television, and game industries and include Avengers: Infinity War and Endgame, Spider-Man: Far From Home, and many, many more. So with that, welcome to the stream, Jerad. It's great to have you back.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. All right, we got you. Let's move on to our next artist here. Kyle Brown is a senior concept artist working in film, television, and games. After graduating Columbus College of Art and Design with a bachelor's degree in illustration, Kyle moved to Los Angeles and attended the Gnomon School of Visual Effects, which led to roles as a creature and character designer working predominantly in film and television. He's worked on projects including Steven Spielberg's Ready Player One, Netflix reboot of Lost in Space, Disney's Mulan, Birds of Prey, X-Men Dark Phoenix, with many more on the horizon. And Kyle also teaches creature design here at Gnomon School of Visual Effects, as well as character development and digital sculpting. So with that, Kyle, welcome to the stream.
Thanks, Adam.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for having me tonight, dude.
Awesome to have you back on. And then I'd like to introduce Jared Krichevsky, who is a concept artist, and he is a character and creature designer working in the visual effects industry. He's worked on characters for the big and small screen, including Jiminy Cricket on ABC's Once Upon a Time in 2011, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from 2014 to 16, the Crooked Man and James Wan's Conjuring 2, Dart in Stranger Things 2, and Pennywise the Clown in the horror film It. Jared's exciting upcoming projects include Godzilla vs. King Kong, that's going to be great, and Black Adam coming up in 2022, and more. Welcome to the stream, Jared. It's great to have you back.
It's me.
It's you. Yes.
We made it.
Yeah, you made it. You're here. And then we also have Luis Carrasco joining us today, who is senior concept artist at Terraform Studios. Luis is a character and creature design specialist who worked on many acclaimed titles, including Star Wars The Force Awakens, Jurassic World, and Ready Player One. As a designer, Luis collaborates with art directors on visual development across projects, provides concept art to communicate ideas for the design and look of a project for directorial approval. And Luis has taught design at many institutions, including the Gnomon School of Visual Effects and the Academy of Art University. And with that, Luis, welcome to the stream. It's great to have you here.
Hey, how you guys doing?
All right, welcome.
Hey, buddy.
You know, and I didn't read in the bio, but I should mention also as well, Jerad Marantz, you've also taught at Gnomon. You taught for quite a few years at Gnomon as well. So I don't know. It's kind of it's sort of a little bit of a reunion here tonight. And, you know, there's no major agenda here, guys, except what we're going to be doing is in just a moment, we're going to be opening up Magma Studio, which was something that debuted at Lightbox Expo this year. And it's essentially a collaborative canvas, sort of like a Photoshop that's cloud-based that all of these guys are going to be drawing and designing on tonight. And that's essentially it. So we're going to get to enjoy everybody making art together. We'll get some conversation going, as well as provide some opportunities for you, the audience, to type your questions into the chat. My colleague Miranda, who is taking care of the stream production this evening, is going to be helping to feed some questions through to us that I can bring up during the course of the evening. But with that, let's get down to business. Let's do what we're here to do, guys. We'll get Magma up on the screen so you can see what we're working with here. And yeah, this is it. This is it. I've been looking forward to this night for a long time, guys.
Cool.
So we're just gonna, this is really informal. For those of you, tuning in, this isn't a demo. This isn't some sort of a teaching or presentation or instructional video. This is doing what, maybe sometimes a lot of working artists don't get the chance to do as much, which is hanging out and just drawing and enjoying being together with other artists doing the same. So I can't imagine a better way to celebrate Halloween than to bring on these really awesome artists and make some pretty cool creatures tonight.
So I guess we go for a corner.
Yeah, there we go.
All right. Well, I should probably do a little bit of housekeeping off the top, because as you may have noticed, we have two Jareds on tonight. I think I'll just refer to you guys with your first and last, or I'll be sure to mention your last name. Kind of makes me feel like a football coach, but I think we just got to do it to make sure we know who's being talked to.
Good idea.
I'll say to that, Jared, I had Marantz as my creature design instructor. So that is the course I teach now. So there were some very big shoes to fill when I stepped into that. So thank you, Jared. I tried to impart a lot of, what I learned from your class and, what I teach each term. So no, it's been a fantastic opportunity, taking that over. I know you're a very busy man, so.
Well, I've been looking at your stuff online, and I'm lucky to have you, man. A really good balance of drawing and in 3D. Do you teach them any 3D?
No 3D. No, just like yours, it's just strictly 2D. I let Krichevsky takes that magic. He runs with the 3D stuff. So I feel like it's a perfect second part to what we talk about in the 2D creature class. So yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was very specific about that. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Them to touch 3D for a while.
Absolutely.
So glad you're doing that. Class is in very good hands.
Well, thank you.
All right, so for each of you guys, what was, if I can ask, maybe what was one of the recent creatures that you worked on that you're at liberty to talk about for production? I don't know. Maybe we can kick it off with. Let's kick it off with Luis, and we'll just go right up from the bottom of the top of the screen here.
No idea.
Well, I'll give you time to think. It's all good. I'm not trying to create a hot seat here.
I think the last thing that's like out. I mean, it's been a while for film, at least. I think it was. I worked on The Creature in a Quiet Place, but that wasn't totally me. Carl Lindbergh did the primary design, and I was brought in to kind of help figure out the head and how it like worked and what was actually inside of it and stuff. And so yeah, it was like a big team effort with, especially with the modelers. So it was like this last minute crunch, and
Gotcha. Well, and it's always a lot of times it is a group effort, isn't it? Like a lot of artists I talk to, they're like, "Well, I worked on that, but so did this guy, and so did that artist." And
yeah, exactly.
How about for you, Krichevsky? What was one of the recent things you can remember working on that you're at liberty to discuss with us?
Well, all the stuff I was supposed to be showing this year got postponed, so I was all set, this year, and then of course, history happens. So I'll be hitting you back next year with all the exciting things that I can't show or talk about. So
yeah, talk about one of those situations where I've talked to a lot of artists. They're like, well, you put your heart and soul into something, and then it's almost there, and then it gets canceled or it gets put on the shelf.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you've had a whole year put on the shelf to a certain degree. With some projects.
Yeah, it's made it tough because when you're showing work, you're showing work that's like 2 years old at least, and there's so much like hurry up and wait, and then you're waiting, and then you just never know if it'll ever see the light of day. So you don't know until the movie comes out, because it gets passed down the line, and as it should, because film is very collaborative, and there's a lot of people touching different parts of a design and doing different things with it. So I mean, but yeah, that happens where you're like, oh, I'm juiced to make this, and then you just have to sit and wait to find out if that happens or not.
Yeah.
Well, the funny thing too, at Krichevsky, he sent us a text. He's picking up all the Godzilla versus Kong toys because that stuff all has to hit a schedule. So it's it's out on the shelf, but the movie is nowhere to be found. So it's kind of crazy the way that timed it. But I don't think they're spoiling anything with it. So I don't know if it's the stuff you worked on, dude. I think it's basically just the main two, right?
I mean, we all know that
right now it's the main two.
Yeah,
we all know that Kong and Godzilla exist.
Yeah, we've seen them.
It's no problem
They
there.
are in the title.
Yep,
yeah, that's right.
But I'm really excited for that one. That one's going to be just like, it's going to be a blast. I can't wait.
Yeah, I can't imagine. Now, Kyle, you went straight to clowns, man.
Yep.
Why did it have to be clowns?
I know, just because I thought I wanted to scare, this is me exercising my own demons, right? I mean, what's more, JK mentioned Pennywise on the top. I mean, I always loved the original Tim Curry version, so that when it came into our previous shop and JK was doing a lot of stuff on Pennywise, where we were handling the first chapter and stuff, I thought, man, this is going to be a tough thing to do. And I think they did it in large part thanks to, what JK's design looked like and stuff. So, I mean, it was really cool to be a part of that, the both of them. But yeah, they did. And everyone hates clowns. So sorry to the clown community out there, but
we're going to get a bunch of hate mail from
I was going to say, sorry, Adam, you got to
Clown Union of America or something.
Yeah. Creepy clowns, I should say.
Yeah. Yeah. So Kyle, what's something you recall, in the recent past? Doesn't have to be like the last thing, but
Sure. I mean, I think we can mention it now. I mean, it's out there. It's released, even though it was sort of a strange release. But I'm still waiting on the word to actually show the artwork. But I mean, it was in the trailer. Even though when we think creature, it wasn't anything creepy. But I had an opportunity to, along with my buddy David Mason, to work on the Phoenix for Disney's Mulan. That just released to digital VOD. So that was really exciting to be a part of that and that evolution. We got to, Nikki, the director, came over a few times, and we walked through that with a few of the higher ups over there. So that was really cool to see that through a lot of the design process, and then see that in the final form. But yeah, no, I just most recently worked on Umbrella Academy season 2.
Oh yeah,
and hopefully some stuff for season 3 coming up here. And as well as some stuff for Star Trek Discovery.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I've been watching that. I think the latest episode just dropped today. In fact, I got a notice on my phone right as we were about to start the stream.
Yeah, they're doing I love the art direction that they're.
If I disappear for about 45 minutes, you'll know where I am.
There you go. Yep.
Okay, so yeah, Marantz, we've got you up in the upper left-hand corner here.
Yeah.
Yeah, anything you want to talk about? Some recent endeavors, and I think also including some of the you've been moving towards doing some directing as well, isn't that right?
Yeah. I recently finished my first short film. I mean, it's not my first, but it's the one that I put some time and money in. And I've just been having fun writing and directing some stuff. I'm sorry, I got a little glitch here. Okay, wait, there we go. Sorry about that.
Everything working out okay for you with the interface there?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
I just didn't realize how tiny my drawing was in the corner.
Were you zoomed in?
Yeah, I zoomed in.
Yeah.
I'm losing some resolution, but
yeah, and I mean, I would say stay at a comfortable zoom level, but zooming in a little bit lets us fit a little bit more on the canvas. And we don't have to stay with just one canvas for the stream. If you guys, want to move forward onto something or whatever, we can do that. But I was gonna mention, Jared, that up here in the corner, you got a nice size, and almost I have to go in a little bit further. It feels like you got it to look a little bit like pencil, which is nice.
Yeah, I was playing with that because I was, trying to feel it out, and I just want to have complete control since it's live and everything, and so I don't want to rely too much on happy accidents. So I'm kind of just like choking up on the bat and going with what I'm the most familiar with. Yeah, it's fun, but work-wise, everyone's talking about work stuff. I've done a few scary things recently. There's Lovecraft County. I established a look of some monsters for that. It falls into the same thing that Krichevsky, Jared, was talking about, how a lot of people touch it, or Lewis was talking about. I got to work on the Shoggoth for Lovecraft County. I was doing a bunch of stuff on Swamp Thing. There are a few things in there are a few of Marvel films that I got to do some fun stuff on that'll come out hopefully soon.
Yeah.
Trying to think, but yeah, I'm always juggling a bunch of projects at once. That's like the life of a freelancer. So sometimes you're working on something that you're very passionate about, and then it'll never see the light of day. I wrapped up recently on a video game that I was very excited about that hasn't been announced yet, and I hope it happens. I got to design some fun monsters on that. But the cool thing nowadays is it really feels like the industry is starting to bounce back. Like they seem like they're very confident that they'll be able to start shooting soon. So everybody's knocking on designers' doors and checking for availability. So it's a good time again to be an artist.
Do you think that is there going to be a bit of a, I don't want to say oversaturation, but do you think the market for working artists will be more heavily saturated because now everybody's got these projects that are on hold that are now like the floodgates are opening, as it were?
I think so. I think it's a really good opportunity, especially with all these like streaming services. Like it's huge, and that was actually a huge concern of mine when I was teaching, because for years I'd be teaching, and there'd only be like a handful of creature jobs, and fortunately I do superhero stuff too. A lot of us do superhero stuff as well, and you can't always do monsters, but now it actually seems like you can always do monsters and superheroes if you want.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's a good time actually. I don't know how long it's going to be this good, but there's work. I mean, between film, television, video games, streaming, if you're good enough, you can get a job. That's
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think obviously tonight we're doing creatures because of the theme, but I think you bring up a good point, and that is, a lot of you guys are definitely known for the creatures that you've done, but I think when you're a concept artist, you work on a great variety of things, I would think, as you're out there, taking on the tasks that you're taking on. At least looking at some of your guys' portfolio, I've seen quite a stuff ranging from monsters to superheroes to some sci-fi characters, creatures, and whatnot.
Yeah. It's I'm very lucky. I think a lot of us would say we're pretty lucky, because I think to do both creatures and characters, if you're able to do all of that, man, you'll stay busy for a while, especially if you're passionate about both things. And I think we fall into that category. Plus, I mean, they are a bit related, especially if you come from a practical effects background. You have to know how to put a guy in a creature suit sometimes, and it turns out that putting a guy in a creature suit isn't that unfamiliar in terms of putting a guy in a superhero suit. So there's some really great crossover there, and good time to be into monsters and superheroes.
Absolutely.
A lot of us start as nerds, right? Like we all start. I mean, like I'll give away my age, but I was born in the '80s, early '80s, so it was the golden age of fantasy movies and all that stuff. So I mean, that all has an effect on your child brain, and you just absorb culture. And I grew up in the mountains, so I was alone for long periods of time.
Wait, were you raised by wolves or something?
I was raised in the caves of Colorado,
okay.
and deep in the mountains, and like a 45-minute drive to the corner store downhill. That was our experience.
I've lived in parts like that for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, like I had nothing to do but absorb movies and culture and entertainment. Because that's all there was.
So
human interaction was not a part of the equation.
In the 80s, with fantasy, I mean, and this I'm probably going fairly early 80s on this, but there were some. I don't know. Today they're a little bit more like cult films, or could be relatively obscure. But you had some great films like Legend, which was one of Tom Cruise's first, I think, one of his first on-screen debuts. But you had Tim Curry playing that demon, which is amazing. And then I don't know if anybody ever saw Krull back in the day. Does anybody remember Krull? Oh yeah. Yeah, that was cool.
Oh, wait, I get it. Krull's the one with the star, right?
It's like he throws this kind of large shuriken sort of thing that has these blades on it. Yeah,
I didn't see it. I get it confused with Beastmaster.
Oh, Beastmaster, yeah.
I know they're very different movies. I think I saw the first.
Are they though? Some of them, but yeah.
Are they? Well, I saw like the first 5 minutes of Krull, and the problem is I think you missed the windows on certain films.
Yeah.
Or, you've seen the films that are kind of borrowing from that source material.
Yes.
So it seems like something that you've, seen 100 times before, but in reality, it's the origin. So I don't think I got through Crawl.
Well, and I was actually just talking with some folks about this today at Gnomon. The 80s were this really brilliant time for practical.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was practical. All of the concept work was being done traditionally. So, I mean, I'm not going to say that it was any more or less artistic, but there was a certain, some of the folks like Crash McCrae are still working traditionally. There was this aesthetic to it. And you saw that come out. There was like kind of this unique sort of craftsmanship that happened between the art and the practical makeup or practical costumes and stuff. Mm-hmm. And then, you've got a whole generation today that were raised on digital tools that sometimes they don't realize that what that digital tool is doing is actually emulating to a certain degree a very practical thing that was done decades ago to a certain extent. Yeah. But no, the films like those were great, I think, because they capture the imagination. And I can remember being a kid, I think being super influenced by any film I went to go see in the theater. Like, you'd be in a complete state of, suspended disbelief, and you come out of the theater and your whole imagination is preoccupied with what you just saw, and you got to go get it out by drawing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, that was a really great time. There's a lot of risk, I think, back then. Like the films that they greenlit were really pushed, and it's funny. It seems a lot more safe these days. I mean, you still have some really cool stuff coming out, but not with the kind of budgets that those earlier films were given. Not that much of a like leap of faith in terms of what will sell. People aren't really taking that kind of risk in big budget film. Mm-hmm. So that was definitely, you're right. I mean, a very, very unique time. You don't really see that anymore.
Do any of you guys have it doesn't have to be the film, but do any of you guys have kind of a film that was a big influence on you in your childhood that really, I don't know, maybe even helped to influence what you're doing now?
I hate being one of those people that references like the classics all the time because I feel like everyone does. But I remember watching the Seventh Voyage of Sinbad as a kid, and I thought the effects were so realistic, especially the Cyclops. I thought it was so real, and that definitely had an impact on me. But it wasn't a big enough impact for me to be like, oh, this is what I want to do for a living. It's more like, holy shit.
Yeah, I mean, for me, so I was a late 80s kid, so it was stuff of the 90s, but kind of like what Luis said, like the Harryhausen stuff. Like for me, I still remember going over to a friend's house who had King Kong, the 33 King Kong on VHS, and just being mesmerized by that. So I always like to bring up in class. Like I know it's black and white. We're looking at Willis O'Brien's stop motion puppets, but there was, like Luis said, some super mesmerizing about that. And of course, it's the earliest dinosaur action on film and stuff. But then of course it's really, for me, it's Jurassic Park and Aliens. So those were too big. And then of course Star Wars. So.
You like Aliens too?
Yeah. You can believe it or not.
Alien or Aliens?
So Marantz, I'm definitely an Aliens guy. I know that might be sacrilege to some people, but for me,
man.
Yeah, I know. Jake and I have fought about this.
Oh, are we gonna have an art duel? Let's have an art duel.
We might, yeah. It sounds like Marantz was like, "Yo, you got one answer. Make it the right one."
It's over.
It's over.
Very different film from Alien.
Yes.
Alien.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very different experience.
Yeah, I had the odd experience of actually. I mean, I'm not going to date myself because I think I was born before all of you. I'm not sure. But I actually saw Aliens before I saw Alien. I just happened to match up that way. And I remember Aliens is almost, it's kind of like the rock and roll
Yep.
of those two films, and then Alien is sort of like the very dark sci-fi. There's not a whole lot of comic relief, and it was just really, it introduced us to the xenomorph. I mean, that thing is still influencing what we do today. The design on that thing, it's amazing.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah, everybody's trying to find the new creature language, basically. And there are only a handful of guys who've really done it. So I mean, it's a super short list. Like you got Giger, you've got Barlow, and then you have Beksinski, and no one else comes to mind yet. It's Neville Page sometimes has done a few things that have really impressed me in terms of creating a style that actually works, that's grounded. But yeah, we're still in the Giger, Beksinski, Barlow kind of trap, and it's a good trap. It's not. I don't mean to paint it negatively. But those guys, man, they did something.
They nailed something.
Will last forever. Yeah.
They tapped into the ether, like
Yeah.
whatever that realm is that's beyond human comprehension. They've tapped into it, and they ascended and created something, unthinkable.
Yep.
And we're all, every creature designer is still in their wake,
And we're kind of stuck there too, because every time you jump on a new show, they're like, "Oh, we want something like something like this." So, and we all get like design briefs most of the time. Like, we'll start on a project, and director will pull images offline, and it's always the same stuff. Every now and then, something random shows up, but yeah, for the most part, that's what we have to either work with or work around. So it's a challenge. It's very hard because there are very few things that stylistically work in terms of like live action. And I've said it before in my class, and it's this predicament that we as designers will always come across, especially for live action or for even video games that are super resolved, where the human characters are very grounded. Like, the bottom line is, when you're doing a creature design, it has to be grounded in enough reality so that when your actor is next to this monster, it has to look real. So somehow, Giger managed it. Barlow was able to do it, and Beksinski. Like, it's grounded enough that you believe it. Now, of course, Giger had the advantage of his creatures being practical, and so it will always look like it's there. It will always look like the same physics apply to the actor, your protagonist and the monster. So that's a huge obstacle at times with visual effects based creatures.
Well, and I think even extrapolating from Giger's designs, I think the other thing that was so impressive about the xenomorph is because it was practical. They managed to put a guy in that suit, but make it feel anything but a guy in a suit at certain points. And even though it had sort of a bipedal sort of quality to it, there was a total suspension of disbelief. You believed that the creature was the creature, and they weren't able to rely upon digital animation or anything like that. You had to get a physical performance out of that that practical creature that was made. And still to this day, I mean, I feel like it holds up when I watch it today.
It does. A lot of that's also storytelling and brilliant directing, because I've seen good creature designs in terrible films, and they will not last. And no matter how much I would love to pretend that my job is very important and that what I do really matters, if the movie isn't great, if it's not well written, if it's not well directed, if there aren't good performances in it, no one's going to care about the creature.
That's true.
But I mean, how often do you see a really, really, really good film with bad design? I mean, does it swing much the other direction?
Yeah, it's the story that makes the design even cooler. Just like in Toy Story, right?
Yeah.
If the story was bad, it would just be, all these stupid characters. I feel like a lot of productions don't want to take the risk of trying something new, which, James Cameron at the time, like, they were just like, hey, there's this like really cool artist, like, let's try that out. Now today, I feel like if Stan Winston and all those guys were posting their sketches on Instagram, hashtag sketch. I don't know if they would get recognized. They'd probably have to go onto ArtStation and get, the 20,000 likes to be acknowledged as a good artwork.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that level of saturation that we have today has influenced, kind of what, not just the pathway for an artist, but what is being produced?
I don't think it's the saturation of artists, because I feel like that's always been the case. Obviously, social media has changed everything. I think it's our belief that everything is saturated, because if you do go on these networks, you'll find everyone wanting to be a copy of someone else, which is understandable because that's pretty much how we all start. But I feel like the confusion comes when people don't understand what is creativity. Is it my version of this alien? We've all done it, but young artists aren't sure and they want to get validated, so they do that. And I feel like there's this intimidation in believing that you have to be a certain type of artist to get acknowledged, like someone that gets a lot of followers. And I feel like if there was focus on creativity and creating designs and less about the final pretty picture, I feel like there'd be a lot more happier artists and a lot cooler designs in film.
I do feel like some of what social media has done, though, is it sort of blurred the understanding of what concept design can be. There's this larger, I think, pop culture understanding that concept art is just making beautiful illustrations of things, like one-offs.
Yeah.
But how often do we get to see the image of like the 50 things that the belt changes slightly each time, the iterations go on, which I actually think is really exciting. I love seeing that stuff. Yeah. But maybe that doesn't get as much press to the general public. I don't know.
In my opinion, all the best concept art is really ugly. It's all the stuff that it's the napkin doodles, it's the thumbnails, it's the stuff you sketch out in the corner of a piece of paper. That's where real concept is. The rest is just illustration.
Yeah, because you let yourself be vulnerable enough to just make a cool design. Which is rare. I have a hard time doing it too.
It's hard. Well, it's hard.
Yeah.
Drawing is hard and thinking is hard. Yeah. Like when you're sitting there and you're just like, what do I make that's different than, especially when they're like, hey, do something nobody's ever seen before.
Yeah.
What does that mean? If everything's been done before, how do you not do that?
Well, I think it's
Well, let me just say, I think the answer is you do your version of that thing that exists. It's already going to exist, but has there been one that's done by Kyle Brown? Has Jared done this one? Have I done this one? Yeah. You know what I mean? We all have our own weird brains.
Well, I would actually argue that original design in film or in entertainment, whether it's game or TV shows or whatever, it can actually only happen if original design is genuinely wanted. I feel like because everyone I've ever worked with is capable of creating something on their own that's pretty incredible, for the most part. But we then have to go through the filter of other people's sensibilities. And if you're not working with a client that knows or wants something original, doesn't matter how good you are. You have to go through that filter. So, if you want original, exciting design, you might have to just check out the individual artists and see what they're doing on their own time. I hate to say that.
Yeah, you're going to want to become the reference images that the clients pull, right? Like by posting your own awesome concept art that maybe isn't traditionally like pretty and well rendered, and
hopefully your signature is clear enough that they just call you.
Yeah, they'll just call you. Yeah, but
it's a sandpaper, man, because like how do you have that time? Like once you break through, which we have. And they're throwing multiple shows at you. Eventually, your portfolio is just the result of what you were allowed to do.
Exactly. So it's like put in the extra effort to help the world of creativity.
Yeah. You got to go home and you got to keep making your own stuff. That's really challenging because you get to a certain point where you will just get cold for really cool stuff that you want to do all the time, and it will shape you. I mean, I've been doing this for a very long time. I've been focusing on being a creature designer and a concept artist since I was like 5 practically, and I still have those old portfolios, and I mourn that artist. And at times I try to get them back, but it's funny, like you get called on a show, it's a big show, and you learn what the box is in terms of design for that one project, what it has to be based on the sensibilities of the director, what's happening in the script, the emotional read of the character. There's no more blue sky, and it can only be within this small realm. And again, if you have a director who's willing to take a risk and a studio that backs him, you can do something exciting.
And if you're a newer artist, an art director that's willing to back you when you take those risks.
People getting into the industry, I mean, I would just suggest that they fill a portfolio with just amazing things that get them that kind of attention. And show their range at the same time. It's very challenging. I mean, even though there are all of these opportunities, you really have to have the portfolio to support those opportunities, or to get those opportunities.
One of the most common questions I've gotten is about fan art and whether or not people should do it, because I think everyone's so concerned about getting their likes and follows on Instagram to get validated and recognized. I was just curious what all of your thoughts are on it.
It works.
It works. Yeah. Like the first thing I did that got attention was the Zoidberg.
Mm-hmm.
I did and I posted it to Reddit, and it made it to the top of Reddit. And I was like, oh, doing fan art gets you attention, and I did a series of Futurama pieces from that ended up kind of making the rounds on various kind of blogs, and that ended up kind of building a name. But eventually I think it's good to get away from fan art for a little while, and then every so often just do one for fun.
Question: were you already working in the industry when you did that?
I was, but I had no nothing I had done had come out yet. So I would go home from work, and I would sit there and then work till like 3 a.m, and then I would come back into work, and then I'd go home and I'd work, and just to build out a portfolio of stuff to do. Because I was learning all these things from working, and I wanted to go home and apply it and grow. And I would do like postmortems on the work, like where I'd stare at it and be like, why is this not working yet? Why is this bad? I was very lucky that I had Marantz over my shoulder.
No, I remember that conversation. I remember talking about fan art because I remember like Dave Raposo was like blowing up.
Yeah.
And, was working on stuff, but it wouldn't come out for a while. And I remember the conversation about, doing doing fan art, and it does work. It really works. I mean, there's a reason why people keep doing it, and there's a reason why our culture is obsessed with bringing these like 80s things back. It's
I see
that going away.
I see the appeal, and I mean, I've done it too. Like, fan art is fun to do. It definitely is, especially with so many cool IPs that we grew up with. But
yeah.
I don't know. I don't think I know anyone that is doing concept design right now successfully that started out doing fan art. They all kind of got their wings through networking and route, just creating portfolio, like we were just talking about, where you just put yourself out there creatively.
Well, it was definitely a wave that hit. I want to say like 2010, maybe. I'm not sure when it hit. I've never done fan art, but I got in. I graduated around 2005, and I jumped from one show to the next. So I'd always been like super busy. If I started earlier, I might consider it to get the attention and the buzz. Like, you can't ignore what social media does for people. You really can't. Like, I keep up my Instagram, my ArtStation, and I do get results. And the great thing about social media is that you will get job offers outside of your network. So, I mean, it's awesome. I mean, I've done practically zero networking in video games. Like, they find you. And so you have to, especially nowadays, you have to maintain that. Like, to be a concept artist today, to start being a concept artist today, I was having this conversation with, some older guys who've been doing it for a while, not too old, but we were just discussing like what it would take to break in. And, my point was we're good. But if you took all the past credits away, how well do you think your portfolio would hold up on like ArtStation if you had to build today?
Well, I mean, from what I've seen since I've started, a lot of people, and especially people like my age that have no online presence, have been the most successful artists out there, and their portfolios really aren't traditional at all. They're not particularly well illustrated. They have great designs. They really don't use 3D the way it's traditionally used on ArtStation. And I've been finding more and more people that I've known throughout the years to be gravitating towards this ringing bell of ArtStation and Instagram. I'm not saying it's not important, but I feel like it plays a dangerous role with younger artists, like especially at the schools I've taught. I've noticed no one wants to take a risk on something that everyone will think is a terrible design. I always mention, I always try to get students to imagine Predator was being worked on originally back in the 80s, but today. And good old Stan Winston couldn't wait 24 hours, and he had to post, here's something I worked on, Predator, it's out in theaters right now, here it is. And how much more of an impact would that have had on us as artists if we would just see this 2D image versus just going to the theater and seeing the movie? And I feel like there's this big FOMO with posting, and I feel like everyone feels like they need to do it or else they're not of value.
They don't exist.
Kids are lucky that not just kids, but people that are getting into this now are lucky because there are resources available, and you don't have to look much further than your phone. So your phone is already designed to find what you might be interested in and then hone in on that. And then suddenly it becomes a feedback loop of here's more information about this thing that you're into. And so people just have resources now that we didn't have. I didn't know concept art was a thing. Like, I did not know it existed for movies. I had an idea. I think you talked about this, Luis, on our pre-chat, where you were like, I had a vague idea of what it was, but I didn't know that this is how you get into a job from there. It didn't make sense to me. So yeah, I mean, I think they have a lot more resources. And so I think fan art is kind of an evolution of that availability. Like we see this in phases when like Mandalorian comes out, right? Baby Yoda everywhere. Joker comes out, 1,000 Joker portraits happen, right? So we see these kind of like cultural things hit, and then everybody wants to make art of that thing, which they should. They should want to do those things. So then I guess the question is how do you stand out amongst the flood?
And to add to that, I guess the biggest question of it all is, let's say Giger, is it Giger or Geiger? What's this group?
I've heard both.
Big Giger. Yeah.
Giger? Okay.
Whatever you want it to be, baby.
It's Giger tonight. So my question is,
Giger.
and I ask myself this, is if Giger were to post that original alien painting and got 5 likes, does that mean it's a good design or a bad design?
Oh, well, I mean,
Social media, it means it's like a bad design.
That's, I mean, objective,
but we're talking about producers in a room that don't know if something is good or not. But if something has 20,000 likes and it's like Barney, let's say, then it's just like, hey, let's go with Barney. It seems like kids like this.
Well,
It's an extreme example, but I'm assuming you all know what I mean.
yeah. I mean, I think too with Giger, it's like that rare example too, Luis, like you're saying, like where, you know, Ridley Scott was shown his book, like it already existed. So in a way, there was that affirmation, like, well, it's published, like that was his jam. I mean, you know, yeah. So, you know, but dude, honestly, I know JK and I have talked about this like ad nauseum, you know, about like the social media presence and stuff and how that, you know, relates to, I guess, success in the industry and stuff. But to me, I know it's that high that everyone gets off the, you know, the affirmation of like work published. But part of me is like, I don't give a bleep, you know, at a certain point too. Like when I was jumping in Procreate just to do stuff, I was like, I just want to sit here and doodle and come up with it. And also on a side note, Adam and I were actually just talking about this fan art thing. And sometimes I think it offers you a cool sandbox to play in while you're trying to learn new things or new techniques. So you're not as concerned maybe about, yeah, exactly, dude. I think, you know, and Luis, I think you and I talked about that too, dude. But like, you know, like with say, you know, we're investigating Blender. Well, Adam and I were talking about a piece he did, which was like, hey, it's Star Wars based because it's like you kind of know the aesthetic already. So let me just work with the tools to try and achieve that. So like for me, like, so then you're not juggling all these balls at the same time when you're trying to learn this new thing. So for that, I'm totally cool. But like, I've never felt all that compelled to be like, I need to do something in this fan art world just so that it relates to likes. But like, you know, Marantz was saying too, I mean, I think there is that thing too to having that presence online, because there have been opportunities that have popped up just for being on those platforms, which is great. So
right. Anything can be weaponized and anything can become toxic, you know,
especially in social media. Yeah.
But no, I think the other thing, if I can chime in on that, because this conversation is amazing. I love it. I think, you know, there is something to be said for, you know, sometimes, maybe not all the time, but sometimes you can tell when an artist is making something because they're really passionate about it, or when it's just sort of like a cash grab, for lack of a better term, in terms of like, you know, like grab, like, oh, I'll do this because it's popular right now. But I agree. I think there can be an interplay between, for me, sometimes fan art is almost like a study on an aesthetic. You know, like I remember when they were working on The Force Awakens, one of the big questions that came out that everybody wrestled with was, you know, what is Star Wars? What makes Star Wars aesthetically? So I think when you love an IP and you're making something because you're studying it, because you're passionate about it, I think that can be one thing. But there is a slippery slope. I think, you know, a lot of people experience this thing is like when you start getting a lot of attention about something, there is a dopamine hit that comes with that. And you know, you don't want to start to become addicted to just kind of pleasing the masses, as it were, with your artwork. I don't know. You guys can speak to that point far better than I can. That's just my 2 cents.
No, but it's true.
In the right direction. Yeah. I just, it's just like, I notice, every class that I've taught, like for instance, I taught the Gnomon class, which was a huge honor. And, one of the rules of the class is I didn't want any pretty paintings. I just wanted people to show up with designs. And that
I like that.
That was the hardest thing to teach to the students. It's like, stop rendering, stop everything. I was like, just like grab a pencil or grab photos, like put them together, paint on top, like just explain your idea. And
Like-
there was like a lot of anxiety with it, a shit ton.
I think it's a lot easier to render than it is to think of an idea. I think thinking like it, and we all experience it like in the beginning, like when you're like, what am I going to do for this thing?
Yeah.
You know, that's hard. Like, what am I going to sit here and noodle
Yep.
on? And
Well, also, I mean, when it comes to students,
rad pile, by the way. This is
like
Thanks. Dude.
like the most success I've had with them is coming in and limiting the tools immediately.
Yeah.
So in my classes, it would just be, the one, round brush with a little taper on it. And we would do maybe initial rough-in with limited value, and then we had to do line work so that we could really see what we were doing. And I think one of the biggest problems that I would run into is always, how much drawing a student has had prior to coming in. And, if that is the biggest obstacle, then that is eventually what ends up taking over the class, just trying to get them to draw correctly. Because, that's step one. And that was a huge problem. I think one of the biggest issues in terms of, the information that's out there is that it's all out there at once. And so if you're to look at your favorite artist's ArtStation or website, you don't see the process, you don't see the years of drawing and painting, and you don't know how to get to that finish line. And that's what I think throws a lot of people. So I don't know, it was tricky. I learned a lot teaching over the years. Another thing that I learned is that no matter what, if a student wasn't motivated, they were not going to succeed. That was that was a big one. So
I noticed the same thing. Is like their drawing skills, their painting skills, and then some of them were older than me at times at different schools, and
yeah,
I think that's why at Gnomon I wanted to try to eliminate all of that and just try to get them to communicate the idea in the most simplest way, just that way they could kind of remove the anxiety of needing to perform a certain way in front of the other students or in front of me.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so they could have that creative liberty. It was still just as challenging as the drawing or anything like that. But the level of vulnerability it takes is something I feel like is really hard to communicate to students. And that's why I kind of bring up the whole fan art thing, because I feel like students are so focused on rendering something a certain way instead of like, if you're going to do fan art, what would Batman look like, if he was, what if he was a xenomorph or something like that, just like, that's the brief, just like go with it, who cares if anyone likes it or not, just like see what that looks like. And, but instead you get like, oh, here's Batman, here's Frank Miller's Batman. It's like, like that's great. Hey, you rendered that in Octane. That looks super pretty. Like you're here's my like, you're validated.
I think to your point, Luis, I think that I think what you're describing, that fear of like really, really sketching, really going out on a limb, goes part and parcel with people not failing fast enough. That's that fear of failure. And that's one of the things that I really got out of Jared Krichevsky's class, is you had us in the beginning do all these iterations in this medium that you're helping us get comfortable with. And it was like, you didn't have time to go, this has to be the best ever. And so you got that mileage of failure, which, really, really helps. And I think I noticed the most improvement for me in that area, attacking it that way. Because then it wasn't about making everything perfect. There's other times for that. But no, I talk to a lot of young artists when I'm out there, talking community colleges and in high schools and stuff like that. And it's like people to a certain degree have forgotten what a sketchbook is for. They think a sketchbook is an analog Instagram feed, as opposed to like your visual toilet, right? Like you should just dump all your ideas, in that thing. But I think it is that fear of failure, and I think it does go hand in hand with this sense of like everybody feels like they're constantly being watched and evaluated now.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I feel like students constantly need that reinforcement where it's like one of my rules is you're not allowed to post on social media. Like that's number one rule, just because I don't want anyone to obsess over it. And I don't show the students each other's work until like halfway through the class or at the end, just because I feel like I feel like creativity is such an intimate thing, and being able to be vulnerable with yourself in terms of what you're not good at is something important to understand immediately, and how to address it is something that's really important, because I always remind them, I'm like, I'm being paid to be here and support you. After this class, I'm not being paid to support you. I'll help, but it's important that, we get this vulnerability thing addressed and you figure out what it is that you need to learn to move you on to the next step. Because yeah, you guys are right. Rendering and all that stuff, plenty of tutorials on Gnomon's site to get you through it. But the creativity aspect and vulnerability thing, those are like self-help books that you're probably not going to read.
I have a great book for that, by the way. But one thing that I repeat a lot is you don't grow in your comfort zone.
Mhm.
Correct. Yeah.
If you're safe and happy and comfortable, you're not growing. You got to go when you're uncomfortable, when you don't feel like you've got it. That's when, like,
So hard.
I think that's when it forces a breakthrough. When you're like, maybe it's your 700th iteration of something, and you're just like, what do I do? And you're like smacking your head on your tablet. I think that's when a breakthrough comes.
Yeah. I think you got to give yourself permission to know, hey, this version is probably going to suck, but
Yep.
we're going to do it anyway. It's going to be fun.
And fail with gusto, right?
Yeah.
I'm geeking out so much on what you guys are talking about and what you're doing here on the canvas that I don't want to neglect our fine audience. We've had a few questions come in for you guys along the way. And I think what I'll do is I'll just kind of feed the questions to you guys and see who wants to take a stab at it.
Sure.
And at the same time, I'm going to kind of zoom in and sort of take a little bit of a tour of what you guys are doing so people can get a closer look on the stream. So the first question is, it's up for grabs for everybody. What's the most challenging thing you encounter when designing a horror creature or character? And maybe you could even rephrase that as, what is one of the challenging things you encounter? Because sometimes it's hard to quantify like the be all end all. But anybody want to share about some of the challenges when it comes to designing for that genre?
Go ahead.
Well, mine was short and sweet. So in terms of designing for that genre, and again, working with clients, figuring out what their definition of scary and horror is. I've done a lot of horror over the years, and horror means something very different to different clients. So if I'm working on like American Horror Story, I can go all out. But if I'm at Disney and they tell me scary, I've made this mistake many times when I'm at Marvel. There's what I think is scary, and there's what they'll actually put on the screen. And so there's always this being reeled in for me, especially when the budgets get higher, of what horror actually is. So that's always a challenge, because if you ask me for scary, I can definitely do scary, but you don't want it. You don't actually want that, because they don't want to limit their audience. So figuring out, I guess, what PG-13 scary is might be my biggest challenge.
Well, I was going to say a common trope that I see that I've experienced a lot, and I don't know if you guys have gotten this. I'm sure you have. Is they all want you to take away the face, where there's always as some direction at some point. They're like, what happens if there's just nothing there?
Yeah.
So I wonder if there's just a trend of
Definitely,
moving away from in my opinion, maybe just seeing the eyes emote or something. Maybe there's, obviously if you take away features, then it gets more creepy, but I've just noticed a lot of like, hey, no face in this. It's a creature with no discernible features. And maybe they're afraid of going monster with it. I don't know. This is dope, by the way.
Well, you do definitely. That looks sick, dude.
So
yeah. I mean, that was a trend. I know, JK, like a lot of things that we were working on, it's just, it got to the point, man, where I can't tell one apart from the other because it's all kind of dragged through the same filter. And I think that was so cool what we were doing with it and what, like, Andy really liked, because it was just, they like kind of what Marantz was saying, like, they were willing to push it. I mean, there's some far out things there, and he definitely has an aesthetic he likes, in some of the visuals, that popped up in both chapters, but like, I mean, they took chances with some stuff, and to me, that's some of the scariest stuff that's been on film recently.
I don't think I've worked for like a scary movie, like the Quiet Place thing. Like that wasn't.
It's pretty great.
Like I joined like way late, so for initial designs, I don't think I've done anything for horror. It's been a dream. It's definitely been a dream, but now it seems like that horror movies are so streamlined now that. I'll just have to I'll have to do the Jerad Marantz thing and just make my own.
There you go.
I mean, that's it, right? Just make my own. When are we going to see that?
Take a free. Oh God, I want to get it out. I'm still trying to figure it out. The thing with festivals is sometimes a lot of them require that it's not out there. So
it'll be a while. So it'll be a while.
Yeah, it'll be a while. But that was a lot of fun. I mean, it's a ghost story basically, so it's not a big, monster because I didn't have that much money.
Still, that's awesome.
It's definitely like so many of us want to do it. So to have just been able to do something that's not terrible is an accomplishment. It's the most creative I've ever felt, and the most fulfilled I've been in a long time. So I have to keep doing it. And that's going to be very challenging.
I've tried to get a couple short films off the ground, man, and it is hard. It is hard. Kudos, man.
Entirely yourself.
It's really hard. It's really hard to get that stuff produced, seen, out there. So it's a lot of work.
It's tons. And the thing that's really bad is that you're not a concept artist on that, meaning like it's not all on you. So when you have to rely on other people, that's very challenging. And, after my experience, I work with people where, it totally worked. And then I work with people who I would probably swap out. And of course I want to learn more about the process so I don't have to rely on anyone. Like that's always like hitting a wall. So I think that'll be a goal, but it's very hard to do that while trying to be a successful concept artist at the same time. There's just not enough hours in the day to juggle multiple projects and do a short film that you like write and direct. Like, geez, like it's hard. And it was a long one. It was about 23 minutes, 4 days.
Wow. Yeah, that's not short.
No, it's a 12.
That's an episode.
Yeah, we ended up building it in our garage because it was cheaper than renting a space, and I got a good camera, I got a good crew, and I just went for it. And then it wasn't that bad, and so the next one's got to be better. But it was a positive enough experience, and the result was good enough where I got to do it again, and I got to keep going. It's not like turning a page in a sketchbook. It's such an ordeal to do a film. I'll do the 48-hour film festivals are really fun. I mean, you can do that on an iPhone, So I mean, I recommend any concept artist to write and direct something because it ironically made me a better concept artist, especially in terms of working with like directors. Like now that I understand a little bit more what you're going through, I'll be more patient. And of course, you don't have every answer. You can't. I mean, you're the only person that sees the film in its entirety, and you're juggling all of these people. Like it's, you can be a bit more patient.
A good crew is everything as well. Good people, good crew, and people that are willing to trust and believe in you.
Mm-hmm.
That's hard. It's hard to find, and egos abound in this business. But eventually, you find a group that wants to come together on something, and then it's magic when it does. It's hard. It's hard to get people.
Yeah, that can sink you right there.
Yeah.
And the hard part too is like you can write something that you're proud of. That's just the starting line. It's nothing.
Yeah.
Assembling a team and a budget. I mean, the way I paid for it was, I had my day job and then I had like a side gig. I'm always juggling multiple projects. So I'm like, okay, the money for this one goes in this account, and that's my budget. So, I mean, it's still barely anything, but you can get some stuff done, and people work differently when you're paying them. So, I didn't want anybody to work for free, or I didn't want anybody to be put out by it.
Yeah, cool.
So no exposure dollars then, Marantz?
No. I really painted myself in a corner too, because when I was teaching, I would lecture students on the importance of getting paid for your work. Never work for free. If you're working for free, it's pointless, because you can take that time and you can generate a good piece in your portfolio that you can use to put out there and get attention and get work. So working for free for anybody is just, you can't do it. So obviously, after saying that for 8-9 years, like I just have to shell out constantly, or else I'm a complete hypocrite.
I get it.
Oh, why are you erasing what you did?
I was gonna start something new.
Oh man, you guys can when you feel like the canvas is crowded enough, you can start a new canvas, because these canvases will save.
Can we extend? Can you make it bigger?
Unfortunately, that's not possible. I think it has to do with bandwidth issue in terms of resolution. But when you guys are ready to kind of move to a new blank canvas, we can totally do that, because this URL will stay up. It'll stay live for a while.
All right. I was just going to move down here.
Yeah,
sure. I mean, we could bump it.
Jerad Marantz, with what you were talking about with directing and kind of moving from the concept artist seat to the director's seat, it raised a curiosity for me. Having done both now, let's say that you are directing a project. Let's say it's your project, like you wrote it, and you're trying to find a concept artist to work on that project with you. What are the qualities that would be important to you? Who are you looking for?
Oh, well, it depends on the project. I believe, and I've seen this done most successfully at Marvel, is that you hire the people who are right for the job. So depending on what I would, need, I would just pull from, all of the people that I've had the pleasure of working with over the years. If my ego didn't force me to design it myself. But also, there are jobs that I've been called for, where if I was directing this, I wouldn't be the first guy I'd pick for this assignment. So, sometimes, you're the right guy for the job. Sometimes you just have to, make it work. So it really depends. But I mean, I would be involved. I'd gather reference. I'd do some sketches. But hopefully I'd be able to hire someone who I think could do the job better than me.
Oh, I realize we have more questions.
Oh,
this is a great problem to have, by the way, guys, because it's you guys are bringing up so many amazing conversational points, just getting you going amongst each other. You're making my job very easy, because you're talking about a lot of great stuff. But let's see here. Some more questions that have come in. Okay, someone wants to know what it was like for each of you when you were just starting out. When you were just starting to get out there and getting your first paid work for what you do.
I've talked about
I can take it. Yeah, I mean, it was absolutely surreal because I remember, coming on, I came on that studio as an intern, and it felt like it was a culmination of years of uncertainty and hoping you're doing the right thing and answering the right questions and stuff. So it really was, as I say, like out of the pan into the fire, and that was a whole education in and of itself. So I would always tell like new students, I think there's that concern that you need to know everything going into it. So part of it's just kind of believing like, hey, this is good. If you've gotten that feedback that your portfolio is in a good spot, to just kind of throw it out there, get feelers, see what's out there. You do that. And I'll tell you, these guys that I worked along, I mean, JK is one of them. I mean, he would lean over and point out things that I was doing in ZBrush and be like, yo, this is kind of a better way you could do this, or you thought about this and stuff. And that was a huge help. So it felt like this whole other education getting that first gig and stuff. And then not to mention the projects we were able to jump on at that time. So I feel like a large, or a major gratitude towards those guys that I was working with at the time. They were monumental in getting this whole thing started. So.
Well, we learned a lot from you too, Kyle.
Yeah, not the right things though.
Yeah, that's so cool.
No, Kyle brought a lot to the table. We learned. I stole all of Kyle's tricks.
Yeah, boy, that was your first mistake, JK. Thinking I had anything to offer. No, I mean, honestly, this has been great. It's a great community of people. So that's what. Yeah. And I know JK's preached this. Marantz has talked about this. Luis has talked about this. And Adam, you and I have talked about this as well. Like, if you find yourself, if you're still a student or whatever, especially at Gnomon, if you're joining us and you're actually at Gnomon at the time or thinking about going, that's kind of the start of your career then, even though it's the benefit of an education, and you're in that place and you're trying to learn. I have now multiple times worked with students, like they came on at the studio and stuff. So they quickly became peers, or fellow artists. And, we saw some that, you're putting your best foot forward work wise, but also attitude wise, because we just want to work with people we enjoy, and if you're hard to work with or challenging, and let those things get in the way, it makes it a little more difficult to work with. So part of it's just being a nice person.
See, I was a terrible artist, but I was funny. That's what it kept me around.
I thought you were going to say I was a great artist and a terrible person.
That's the quote of the day.
Yeah.
That's the quote of the day, Krichevsky. We're going to put that on a t-shirt.
It's so untrue.
I was a terrible artist, but boy, was I funny.
Jokes.
You were always you always had a great attitude, man. I mean, working with you, you were always very optimistic, and it was very, sometimes it was a tense. It was annoying. It was annoying. And having JK's sunny disposition, it was actually very helpful. That, and he gave us key shots, so it was.
I did.
Very beneficial, yeah.
It's funny because that day is kind of etched in my mind.
Yeah,
it's a part of history now because, I watched it from a Vitali Bogorov video. Mm-hmm. So I was inundated with tutorials and all this stuff, and he showed it off. And I think was it Nizzy also was using like Hypershot. And I remember seeing, I think, one of his tutorials.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
And I was like, oh my God. And I was like, guys, mm-hmm. key shot. And you all looked at me like I was insane. And Kelton thought I was saying Kesha.
That's Kesha.
He's like, Kesha? I'm like, yeah.
But to be fair, you always were talking about Kesha, though.
I was talking about
Yeah.
It just happened. There also happened to be a rendering program.
Named
But that was a game changer.
Yeah, that really leveled the playing field too, because you suddenly didn't need to know, a real sophisticated piece of 3D software in order to render something realistically. I mean, the layering process in ZBrush just to get a design to look right was really extensive, and with Keyshot suddenly one material and an occlusion pass, and wow, there it all is. You just have to not. You can already get an exciting image. You don't have to do much to it to take it the rest of the way. So that was a big one.
That was a lot of exploration too at that time, because you were figuring stuff out and I was figuring stuff out, and we were all kind of like, how do we turn this thing into what we want it to? And that process was really illuminating watching. Because I remember you painting on top of it, and you're like, "Oh, pick this brush and do this."
Mm-hmm.
Like, "Oh man, that's genius!" And so it was just all really, really thrilling. And that's what I miss the most, is just being surrounded by artists, because that was such a good crew of artists.
That's worth there's always in terms of how to get that job when you actually do have the opportunities, because students will have a range of opportunities, like a gig might not pay great, but you'll be able to sit next to people who can take your work to the next level. That's worth a pay cut. If you're lucky enough to work in an environment where you're not the strongest artist, you will only grow. You'll only get better.
I remember, because I was sitting next to Alex and watching, and you could just sit and watch Alex paint, and he does it so fast.
Yep.
And you're just like, how does he do that? How does his brain work? I don't understand.
Yeah. And just being around it, I mean, you can't help just by osmosis. Some of it can improve, because it teaches you what to look for. It makes you pay attention to things that you may not have seen before. Being surrounded by talented artists is everything. It's the only way to really grow. Because I've been on some shows where the budget isn't that high, and so it's just me, and they'll give me the assignments, and I make it work. And then there are the other shows where you're in a pool of artists, and we're all doing the same characters, trying to get it through, and it's the hardest when you're competing for design from exceptional artists. That's very challenging, but that is when you push yourself the hardest, and when you can just kind of get up back in the day and walk around and see what everybody's doing. Definitely the best scenario. So I mean, I would recommend anybody starting out, even if you're really good, try to get a job where you're not the strongest guy in the room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. There's something about being there's something about the weakness that seeing other people produce really top tier stuff, and you're looking at your stuff and you're going, I am not this good. This is very good. I am gonna learn everything I can from this person.
Yeah. A lot of attitude. I mean, that'll really sink or get you going. It can defeat people. It really can. If you're discouraged, or if you see the road ahead, and it's a long road, and it's a hard road to getting better, and that really tends to separate or I guess thin the herd a bit. So attitude is a lot, man.
The mental game. I'd love to hear what you guys think about the mental game.
Mental game of what? Just
I would say dealing with the ups and downs of art as well. There are days when you're like, I'm not hitting it today, or days when you're it's like what did we say, the highest highs and the lowest lows.
Mm-hmm.
Well, right now I'm just telling myself just to have fun.
I zoomed in, so I can't see anybody else's stuff.
I think actually, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like that's just something that's constantly going on. there'll be a period of time when you're like, oh, I'm pretty good or whatever. Then all of a sudden you're just like, I can't think of anything. I can't think of anything. Your renders aren't looking good, or your ideas aren't that great. I think usually I have to like just take a break and go do something fun and like something very different from what I'm doing to like get out of my head.
You guys, mind if I wanted to take a quick tour of the canvas, especially now it's starting to fill up, and I'm not trying to ask for like a definitive explanation of your process, but maybe just talk a little bit about the process you use to build up what you've got, because I know that everybody has I noticed that everybody has a little bit of a different approach. I think also Carrasco, what you're doing up there with laying in some of the photo textures and then working off of that. So I think I'm just going to kind of zoom around the canvas and I'll touch base with a few of you guys and, just say what you'd like to say about how you approach this. But I know that a lot of our viewers probably would be interested, like you guys were saying, about people that you work with. How does this person think? What's going through their brain? Let's see. I'm gonna start out with Kyle here, just because that's the person. I'm put you in the hot seat, Kyle.
Sure.
No, seriously, I'm not looking for a definitive thing, but maybe just talk to us a little bit about, because I think you built up the line work and then the painting on this lovely looking fellow here with the.
Thank you, dude. Yeah, just a personal nightmare. So just trying to work it out.
Nice.
Just a little bit of therapy here. Let's see here. Actually, because I'm kind of being greedy with my layers here. I did a copy merge, and you can see I just built things up, sequentially. But this was it, just kind of a loose construction. I vary. I go back and forth. It's something I talk about in class. Like, I love setting up the construction and getting those forms in place. But I'm such a fan of illustrative work like Ian McKegg's and stuff. So sometimes just going in there and just being a little more gestural with some of these forms, especially with this kind of whimsical devil clown dude here. So just kind of find those forms and then I just kind of wash those colors in. So it's never a tried and or never like the same thing over and over again. So I just let's see here. Did I completely botch my layers? Probably.
You did.
There we go. Yeah, dude. There we go. Done. Yeah. So then just kind of working, opaquely on top and just pulling out some of those things. They're trying to make decisions. You probably saw like throughout it, I erased and redrew that nose like 3 million times and still not happy with it. So I'll keep doodling on top. But yeah, it's like Luis just said, just having fun with it, and you can chill right next to Poop Cop right there.
I'm a big fan of Poop Cop.
Poop Cop is a legend,
I've got all the Poop Cop's DVDs at home.
Absolutely, yeah. Seasons 1 through 30, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, they did the 30th.
If they're only in Canada, yeah. You had to pick up the region, the region-free DVD.
Because there was the craft service strike, which completely stopped the production.
Yeah. There was that
and then they were like, "We're going to come back someday."
Yep.
And then like a couple of decades later in 1997, they did the 30th season. Wow.
Absolutely. They came back, they had that revival and stuff. Short-lived, but it was cool to see the team back together. So
yeah, absolutely.
Like there's
30 people just left the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just Miranda hanging out now. She's like, it's just you guys in a tumbleweed, so enjoy.
Or there's somebody out there going, "What Poop Cop? What's that? How come I don't know about that?"
On IMDb.
Googling Poop Cop. This is going to be the most searched word on the internet right now.
God.
Some producer somewhere is get Poop Cop on the line.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Sorry, I think totally derailed you, dude.
No, dude, I think that's the problem that both you and I have when I'm in your classes. No, and I think there's something cool about what I like about Magma is it is, you're working with a more limited tool set, so it really is kind of that alla prima approach.
Yes, yeah, that's what I really like.
It's drawing and painting.
Yeah, because I was looking around for like some different tools, and it's kind of forcing me to just be like, no, man, just keep it simple. I think that's the problem.
Totally.
You can get caught up in the technical stuff. So this is great.
Speaking of Poop Cop, paging Mr. Poop Cop. So Krichevsky, can you talk to us a little bit about because I've done mostly 3D stuff with you, but we've had some great conversations about 2D and the value of 2D in your sketchbook.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you approach 2D for yourself?
It involves a lot of crying, a lot of reflection. No, I mean, like, I don't have like one singular method that I like to work with. Like I tend to be like stylistically all over the map from drawing to drawing, and so I wish I had like a tried and true method that I like. It all starts like eventually like doing under drawings and then drawing over, and then kind of where you decide to and you let paint enter into the situation. So, I mean, you can do your under drawing and then draw over it and, build up that way, or you can, flat color and just let color do it. It's all over the map. And sometimes my preferred method is like working very like with a medium gray or something like that, and then just blocking out a shape
a little more volumetrically.
Yeah, just and this is something I learned from Jared is like pulling the creature out of the fog, where you let a shape kind of happen and then you kind of try to dictate some lines in there. But I like to work very small. Like I like ballpoint pen, like pen. I actually prefer that over Sharpie or really anything else because there's a little bit of bleed to a gel pen. And so I like to use that with some like light gray markers and I'll kind of work that way. But if you're in digital, the downside is that everything's available to you.
Right.
You have the full spectrum and range of color, and you can jump into painting very quickly, and that can also overwhelm you. I think, like when I find I get overwhelmed when I'm not thinking about structure underneath. If I'm not drawing out the lines underneath and working out dimensions, then it's real easy to get overwhelmed, or like you start going like this, you start doing the like, and you're scribbling over it in frustration. So like, I wish I had like one method that I like to draw with, but sometimes I feel like I want to do more graphic work.
Right.
Sometimes I want to do more rendered pieces, or sometimes I like big brush strokes. And so like, I'm always experimenting. I don't have one method. And then what I find helps with that is like, then a job comes up where they want that. And I'm like, oh, I happen to have that tool in my tool belt anyway.
Yeah.
I've experimented with that.
Yeah. So when you're, and I don't know how often you get, I know that sometimes when you're working in 3D or if you're doing something in ZBrush, you don't always have the luxury of time to go 2D sketching and then go into 3D per se. But when you're drawing, are you just saying, I'm just drawing right now? Or are you also sort of thinking in the back of your mind, like, how do I want to do this with 3D in mind, with sculpting in mind?
I'll do that sometimes. Like I'll do this thing where I'm like, if I'm working in 3D, like the client's asking for 3D, I'll take a break and I'll do a 2D sketch just to like step away from it. And I find that like the back and forth sometimes allows a little space to breathe. So that when I go back to it, I'm like, now I've got an idea, because you let your mind kind of run in the background. Sometimes if I'm staring at the same thing for too long, then it starts getting messy, or the signal gets fuzzy. So I find giving it a little space, coming back to it and being like, this is how I'm going to approach this task.
Okay. Yeah.
This particular task.
Great call.
Kind of multi-dimensional. You got like a multiverse of dimensions going on in your brain.
It is a very cluttered space.
All right. I'm going to come up to what Mr. Carrasco is doing up here. Because we were talking about this when we were sort of getting ready for the stream last week. But you're doing some really cool stuff where you're not just sort of throwing a photo on there and then letting the photo be the design, but it's like you're extrapolating texture and maybe even some happy accidents, it seems, from what you're gaining by doing that photo overlay. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Well, so the reason why I use photos is I'm not really using a photo because it's a specific thing. Like I do sometimes, like like it's 50-50. Like for instance, like for the gums on this creature here, like I could spend forever noodling it, but I know exactly what I want it to look like. So I'll just grab a picture of gums and get it to fit my sketch, and then I'll get more information for my like mental library of reference. And I'm like, oh yeah, I remember gums have this color in between them, and they look like this, and so it just helps inform me, and it makes the design look a little bit more realistic and believable. Also, like in terms of color palette, like it informs that, just because I don't trust my color sense. And also, yeah, I guess happy accidents, but it's more like remembering that there's another level to making something look realistic. Like if you were to just straight like draw a human portrait, like someone's portrait, like, and it looked very realistic. If you were to actually look at a photo of a person, there'd be all these little things that you missed. And it could be color, it could be detail, it could just be something so subtle. And that's why I like to grab photos, because it brings that little subtlety back in, and it helps you inform the rest of your design with that little subtlety.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, and I was watching a thing with John Park recently where he was even... he was using, I forget what it was something effective, even like taking a photograph and then turning it to just like strictly 2 values, like, you know, super graphical.
Yeah.
And then chiseling away at that, or even just using that as a study and then doing a totally like taking a barn and turning it into an airplane or something like that, but just using some of the graphical read to, you know, kind of get some of that creative mileage out of it.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Like I'll draw the silhouette and basic idea and values, and when I like that bug guy on the right, like I knew it was going to be a bug after like a bit, and I was just sketching it in. When I grabbed a photo, I just it had this information that I just was not thinking of, even though I've seen the photo a million times. Here, I can grab it just to show you all what it looked like.
Everyone gets the top hat.
It's gotta have the top hat.
It's a very fancy creature party now.
So this
Absolutely.
This is the
Where?
and the information here helps plus this guy out.
Totally. But I think there's a lot to be said for, like, we were talking earlier about the trap of like a lot of younger artists, because everything is so readily available. You can look at the end result of something, or you can misread what someone is doing, for example, with photo texture, and they can assume that that's somehow a shortcut. But what I see you doing is you're using photo, but you still have full command over what you want to do with that. You know, it's not dictating to you what you're capable of doing.
Exactly.
And I think that that's why the fundamentals are so important. That's why drawing is essential, to the process.
Yeah.
No, that's super cool. And I think I've watched something recently, and I can't remember. Are you actively teaching at Gnomon right now?
No, I had to stop to.
Okay. Yeah, because I think there was one term that I was about to jump into. I think you were doing some character design classes there.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, I was bummed I missed that one. I was like, oh, I didn't catch it just the right time. But I love watching some of your work, and I think I've watched you even bring some texturing from photo in over some of your ZBrush models as well, right?
Yeah, I do the same thing. I wish I was as efficient as Jared, or as the Jared and Kyle with like 3D. I think that's like an Aaron Sims thing, I guess. I have to I really want to watch all of your tutorials. Actually, I tried, but Kyle decided to make it 2D so he could hide his secrets. I know both.
That wasn't my call, dude.
I know both Jared's. Do you do workshops or is it tutorials that you have? I think it's workshops, right?
Mine's a workshop. There's no photo bashing in there.
Oh yeah, I mean for the 3D part, because I wish I could be as efficient as you guys, but I need photos to like get me there.
Well, I don't know. Jake has his Gumroad, and Marantz has you've got your Gnomon workshop one, dude, which is fantastic.
Yeah. So. And the Gumroad too.
Yep.
But that's just 2D flat color.
Yeah,
stuff.
I picked up that one. Yeah, that one's cool.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, it's a fun video. Yeah,
absolutely, dude. The Bounty Hunter one. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. So, yeah, I was. I'm trying to come out with part 2 soon, but it was very important to do a fast, brainstorming. kind of video before jumping into 3D. I intend to model out one of those guys eventually.
Awesome. Now, anybody who's listening that's wondering what we're talking about, on Jerad Marantz's Gumroad, there is a fantastic tutorial called the Alien Outlaws, or Alien. Yeah, I think it's Alien Outlaws. And it's great because you get to start at what the beginning is in terms of the thought process. I mean, there's a lot of artists out there that you don't see that part of their process, either because they've got so much experience that it's internalized or it's a part of their shorthand. But one of the things I love that you do with that, Jerad, is you put it all on the paper, what you're thinking about. And I got a lot out of that one. Just starting from simple sketch to what you worked in on the values, and then pulling out of those values some of the forms and design. Super helpful as a process. Yeah. And I think as long as we're talking about the subject, I think all of you guys have got some stuff out there that people can glean from, and I'm sure that they're curious too. So Kyle, I know that you just did a Gnomon workshop. Yep,
I'm slowly but surely I'm wrapping that up. Luis was a huge help get me set up with that too. So yes, I was invited to do a 2D one, very similar to what Marantz was talking about. But I do have plans to do, even if it's personally, some 3D stuff coming in the future. But yeah, it's an intro to creature design one for Gnomon Workshop, so that should be done here before the end of the year.
Yeah, and if there's any younger artists or aspiring artists, or maybe you're just getting started and you're either doing a little bit in 3D and you're looking over the fence at 2D, or vice versa, I would definitely say it'd be worth your while to check out some of these things, because I think the relationship between 2D and 3D is vital for how we approach these things, and I think for getting the kind of mileage and maturity that these artists are getting out of their work. There's no shortcut in that sense.
I wouldn't call any of us mature.
Oh God, no.
Well, this is show business, right? We're live streaming, so be very liberal.
Yeah, it's very silly.
Well, I don't know. I think that there's definitely a refinement to it. Maybe mileage would be the better term than maturity. Lots of mileage. So many miles.
So many.
And then one day you can make Poop Cop.
Poop Cop. Yep.
Waiting for that check to roll in on Poop Cop.
Yeah.
Are they still stiffing you on that?
Well, I mean, we're getting together for the 30th anniversary. So
excellent. I really appreciated Rutger Hauer's role in that show. That was amazing.
Yeah. That was his last role, actually.
Yeah.
You gotta go out on an Emmy, the Emmy, and then you step aside.
Yeah, like Blade Runner, Maid Runner, like Poop Cop.
Yeah. He's always trying to do that Tears in the Rain speech, and you should just read what's on the paper.
Which a lot of people don't know. Those two franchises exist in the same universe. The Poop Cop
universe. Yep.
And the Blade Runner. So Jared Krichevsky, I know you're of course teaching at Gnomon. Are there any other resources that you've been a part of that you want to give a shout out to?
Well, I do have a Gumroad where I cover 3D illustrations. So starting from a sphere and then blocking out a model, and then basically shooting that model in Keyshot. So thinking about it like a studio environment, and then lighting it in that way, and then I do a render, and I do a paint over on top of that render. So it's here's a quick 3D modeling process, and then here's a quick paint over process.
Cool.
So that's the only one I've done so far, but you have to take my class for all the goods.
Awesome.
I want to add to that because I was looking at Krichevsky's Gumroad recently, and the cool thing about it is that it's very grounded. So he actually starts with a real life creature. Mm-hmm. He resolves it anatomically very well, and then he creates fantasy around it. So it's a very grounded design that he then pushes, which is educational in a different way, because he's building on top of reality, which is essential, I think, for creature designers.
Yeah,
and he's written a really beautiful kind of mystical kind of place, because I don't know how many pretty creature tutorials there are out there, but Krichevsky did a pretty one.
Yeah, there's not a lot. But,
Yeah, he's got his niche.
I wanted to make something beautiful.
Yeah.
And then Carrasco, I think you've got a Gnomon workshop. Is that right?
Yeah, I put a tutorial out a long time ago. It's pretty much, it's like, I feel like it's more of like the like it was after I learned like the 3D 2D process and understood it. I wanted to make a tutorial for people that was very detailed and specific about little things like what you need to do to get things to look a certain way, because that's how I like to learn. Like, why did you choose that brush? Yeah, I made that a while back, and I mean, yeah, looking at it now, it's just I kind of want to make a new one, but it's so difficult for me. It's so difficult. So.
Well, and I think there's also something really to be said for getting the opportunity to learn something from someone who just recently kind of put it all together for themselves. Because I think you were saying that, after you kind of pulled all that together for yourself and grounded your process, you then right away wanted to do something to be able to share that. And I think that allows the educator, if you will, the opportunity to empathize a little bit more where the person's coming from.
Yeah.
So yeah, 100%. Well, it's about time to start a new canvas because this monster party is getting crowded. But before we do, I want it, because the only person I think left that we haven't talked to yet is Jerad Marantz. I wanted to come over this side of the page, and I think both of these guys.
What the hell happened to my guy? Wait, did someone put a hat on my guy?
I think it was Poop Cop. I think Poop Cop did it.
Oh.
We're all going to the ball.
No, seriously, watching you start out with almost this pencil-like line work, and then I think you were also laying in from the pencil work a little bit of value and structure, and then coming in with, I don't know if it was overpainting or underpainting. Could you?
I'll go through the layers. Sure. I didn't draw the hat, so I don't know what that's about. But, let's see. Oh my God, did I lose stuff? I'm not sure. Let's turn that off. Okay, so minus the hat, there's just a drawing layer. And then just because I'm trying to control, we have limited time, so I'm trying to come up with a plan. So the fastest thing to do is to just do some line work, and then once you have something that you like, fill it in. That's distracting. Fill it in, multiply. So essentially, like a marker on a Xerox is what a multiply layer is, essentially. So I got my color down, and I also got some value. So it's a very limited palette, just finding the form and the shadows and highlights. And then I had a soft light layer, the different color, just to add a little bit more to it, get it to be a little bit fleshy, build up my highlights. And then what else did I do? And then I just started painting in highlights, it looks. Yeah, that's it. Cool. And that was enough to communicate the idea. So it's kind of like a alien-y Creature of the Black Lagoon. And then downstairs, I was working on a full body. I had, let's see, on this blue critter down here. Yeah. I was going to do something else, but then Krichevsky put like the Donnie Darko bunny like right there. So it kind of forced me into this corner because he's cool like that. And I don't know, he's like this weird baboon guy. And it's the same process. So finding it in basically line work, and then committing to the shape with a multiply layer. So now I have everything that I need, and within that multiply layer, I can just start to work with my darker values and explore. I'm on the wrong layer, and explore how light hits this object. So typically, I'll imagine a light source right around here, if not higher, and then I'll start thinking in terms of just shadow shapes in order to turn form quickly. I have it kind of regimented so that I don't get lost while I'm working if I have a clear idea. And then off to the side, before everything started, I built a just a sheet of reference, and I'm looking at baboons, I'm looking at microscopic organisms, and all kinds of stuff as I'm drawing and like starting to commit. So I'm just sneaking up on the design, and I'm finding it as I'm moving forward, but kind of in a controlled way, because when I'm on the job, every moment kind of counts, and so I find that I have to really have a solid plan, and that every step I take has to propel me forward. So by liking the line work, that there's my commitment. I can then go into the multiply layer, and then I can refine that design on top of that with an opaque layer of paint. So it's a predictable way to just like move forward and get to the next sketch.
And I don't know about you, but there's something so satisfying about starting to lay in the volume of that, even if it's that solid layer over the line work or under the line work. It's like suddenly it starts taking on a sense of form and design.
Yeah, you really start to understand the silhouette. Line is such an abstraction that as soon as you can start working with actual form and shadow, that becomes more fulfilling. So you just have to make sure that your line work is appealing enough to move forward. And it's the multiply layer is just a great way to go from line to solid volume.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful stuff. Everything we're seeing. What is that? Jared or Kyle, the kind of like fleshy looking guy with the top hat and the vest on?
Yeah, that's a JK Kyle tag team, right? So he's
sweet.
Just Fred Astaire.
Is that original character or is that fan art?
Yeah, he's a character from Poop Cop. Yeah. Okay. So we're talking about fan art from before. So yeah, he's one of our side characters from.
Okay, we'll see that on Instagram later then, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, dude, Jake. Yeah, absolutely. I finished the rest of the cane. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh excellent. Yeah. See, that's what.
Thank you. See.
And he's like making like little tippy taps.
Absolutely. See, we all help each other.
Tappy tappy.
Yep.
Are you guys down for starting up a fresh canvas? We won't lose this one per se.
Sure.
I'll just
destroy it. Let it go.
I was gonna say we probably
let it go.
New one.
Burn it.
Yeah.
No, I'm not gonna burn this. This is awesome.
No, don't burn it. Don't burn it.
So what I'll do is I'll send you guys a link to a fresh canvas. I just need to take like 1 minute to just kind of get that set up, and then I'll send that link to you guys in the green room. And then we'll all jump in there and we'll do a screen share of that. So Miranda, if you wouldn't mind just putting there we go. All the beautiful faces. Get those up on the screen, and then I'll take care of the behind the scenes stuff real quick. So let's see. Actually had a great question come in recently on the chat, because we've covered a lot of good stuff about like fundamentals and stuff, but there's somebody who's asking like any tips on great exercises to do. Are there any exercises that you recommend people making a part of their routine that helps you stay sharp, or kind of helps you stay warm in some way?
Let's say squats are good. Bicep curls.
And then that becomes reference, like anatomy reference, right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Jump rope.
I'd recommend value studies. Working from reference. I know if you want to do like character design, the only way to really get good at it, especially if you're interested in what some of the top guys are doing, like if you look at Ryan Meinerdy, Andy Park, Charlie Wen, they work from reference a lot. So being able to work from reference is essential. So value studies from photo reference, it's valuable even if you want to be a creature designer to, if you're stuck at home, just Google some cool animals and copy, work from observation for as long as you can. I would tell people to, go to the zoo and sketch, which you might be able to do in a limited capacity now. But for creature design, that's essential to draw from life. Where's that link?
Oh, I just put it in the chat in the green room. The StreamYard link there. And we just recently did a stream together, Jared, and you were talking a little bit about some of those value studies, and feel like you might have even shown an example at some point, but of kind of hitting, rather than starting with color, starting with value, and then let your color be a later study by washing that over. And I've recently kind of dialed back to that on a project I was just working on, and really helped a lot, just to simplify and go to value.
Yeah, to not juggle everything at once is a good idea.
Yeah.
So working in a limited capacity, you'll always move forward a bit more quickly. It's just like if you weren't working digitally, then you would have one pencil and a piece of paper. You could do an entire creature with that. You don't really need everything else. So limiting the way you work is, I think, imperative to just moving forward and committing, because everything's commitment based in terms of doing a design. Like you play around in the mud a little bit, you find something that works, you commit to it, and you build on top of it. Whether it's something that happens more organically, or line work that you really like, and then committing to the silhouette on top of that. So limiting your tools.
Yeah, I was just recently talking with an educator about that, and they were remarking that kind of the digital generation, as it were, they want to go straight to digital when they start learning art. But there's definitely something to be said, like just the first layer of your creature, that line work, just the sketch, already had most of the information that you were gonna take. Oh, yeah. Right there. And sometimes you are limited, I would imagine. There's probably situations you find yourself in where maybe you're in a design brief, or you're in a conference room or something, and you've got to just grab a piece of paper and iterate an idea to get a point across. So being able to not depend on your Cintiq or in Photoshop, I think also is valuable.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And I cannot stress the importance of drawing and painting. That's how you figure out design. Essentially, I recommend it. I mean, the technology is so advanced now. It is possible to get a decent foundation on I hate to say it, on an iPad. You can do it. Yeah. But I still recommend to every student start off, on paper. Have sketching accessible to you all the time. You should have a sketchbook within arm's reach at all times. It's really, I've said it a bunch of times. Being a concept artist, being an artist in general, it's not a job. It's not a career. It's a lifestyle. And if you have to draw every single day, if you feel the compulsion to create every single day, then it might be a good idea to become a concept artist.
What's funny, Jared, is I remember you telling me that, and my initial reaction was I didn't believe you. I'm like, oh, it's perfectly possible to have a life and be a concept artist, and now I know that's not true.
I never held back.
No, you were always totally blunt about it, and it didn't occur to me until years later when I haven't had a weekend in several months, and I'm just like, oh, I get it now. This is every day. This is everyday dedication, like trying to do this.
Well, it definitely weeds out the people who aren't built for it, I suppose, or aren't motivated enough. It is tricky, but I would refer to it as a lifestyle, if not that a compulsion. It's a very weird thing. Everyone I know that's on the shows that people really want to do, that people go after, for the most part had that journey, and the only guys that really are good at maintaining their weekends are the guys that have been doing it forever and can work predictably. They know that in a certain amount of time exactly what they can produce. And I've been doing it forever, and I still don't know. I still don't know what I can produce. And so, there are deadlines where I'm still like right there, right at the end of it, like barely able to get it in on time because, I tried something different. And you can do that, but you have to pay for it. You never miss a deadline. You don't get to.
That timer does go off in your head though.
Yeah.
Right? As you're approaching that deadline.
Yeah, you're very aware of it.
Yeah.
And then the panic.
It's like, you're okay. You're okay. You can do it.
Now, Kyle and Krichevsky, it looks like your two guys down here are about to fight.
Yeah.
Monster Wars, man.
Yeah, it's trying to.
Yeah. Who's going to win?
How do I'm trying to deselect here. What am I doing? There we go. Deselect.
We need like little buildings down here.
Oh yeah, like this dude's a slow moving kaiju. And he's trying to negotiate.
He's a slug boy.
He's slug boy. He's like, excuse me.
I'd like to destroy you now.
No, yeah.
Hold still.
Hold still.
Hold still while I blast you with my face lasers.
I'm very creaturey. I gotta change this face.
How about no face?
No face. Hey, there we go. We got a creature, guys.
That's
Green,
a
white picture.
Get rid of it.
We're done.
Get it out of here.
All right, let's see here. We've had a few different questions come in, kind of touching on the same point. Any of you guys want to give, say anything about, a project that came along that was a real high point for you? That was just sort of like, wow, this is a really big deal that I got to work on this or that.
I've talked a lot.
I guess for me, and I know you and I just talked about Adam the other day, but Ready Player One, and that was part of working with JK and the rest of the guys there was just phenomenal, and it's a Spielberg project. So I mean, that's kind of a bucket list thing. So that was really incredible. That and Lost in Space.
Well, and the thing you said about that project that was really cool was like by working on Ready Player One, by de facto, you get to work on a lot of other really cool 80s IPs.
Yeah.
Because of the nature of that story. Yeah.
That was a fun, because that was just total blue sky. We had a lot of stuff. And that's something you don't get to do.
No.
You don't get a lot of blue sky, and we had that. And so that made it really a really like, it was both wild and at the same time you're like, what do we do?
Yeah.
Well, and wasn't it the artists too, or the people working on the film? Because I remember in some of the extended features, like Spielberg was saying, like, I don't want this film to be about my stuff. Like, I don't want to put my stuff in there. Let's put other things. But then the artists and the designers stuff were like, come on, how can we not put that in there? And I think that you guys sort of were the ones that convinced them to allow that, right?
Yep.
Well, hats off to the Warner Brothers legal team because they had to wrangle IPs from all kinds of different universes that did not belong together. And you're seeing like Overwatch characters running next to Ninja Turtles in that movie, and so hats off to the legal department who had to negotiate all that.
Yeah, for sure.
To get that movie to happen. It was wild, and I can't believe they did that. It was so fun.
It was I don't know if anyone's seen it, but Darren Aronofsky's Noah.
Oh yeah.
That was like my first movie credit, so that was like a big deal.
Yeah.
I was pounding when the credits were coming down.
Did they? What did they have you working on in that one?
You know what? It was mostly like production art, taking existing like assets, designs, and then fleshing them out, making variations of them. Sometimes I would help Aaron McBride with those rock creatures or whatever.
Yeah.
But no one was getting that approved. That was all Aaron. He did like a million versions.
I think those were one of the more unique designs from that film. I thought that was a bit different. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was like very brave and like cool. I did actually. I remember. So if you watch the movie, if you ever decide to watch the movie, there's a scene where the main character Noah has a nightmare where people start like floating and it's like the version of like his version of hell or something like that. And that came about because I mistakenly had them floating. I misheard like the notes, so I had them floating. And just before we showed it, they're like, "Why are they floating? No one tells you to make them floating." And I was like, "Oh." And then Darren saw it. He's like, "Yeah, floating. That's cool because it's like,
that's awesome.
like nightmare." And it was like, "Yeah, I know." That was all.
That's cool. That's really cool.
Of course, he called me Jose after, but whatever.
All right, J.K. Marantz.
JK.
Okay, well, I worked on a movie called Antlers. It was supposed to come out this year, and it's coming out next year. But I worked on that at Legacy FX with Shane Mahan and Lindsay McGowan, Alan Scott, Alan Scott, and John Rosengrant, and it was directed by Scott Cooper and produced by Guillermo del Toro. And so we actually had Del Toro come into the shop to work on the creature, and I had at one point Guillermo del Toro sitting over my shoulder, and that was very terrifying. Very terrifying because he knows what he wants, and if you're not making it, it was very scary. But I mean, at the same time, it's just such a cool project. So I was so just like excited to be a part of it. And I know that's like a common thing we all say, but like it really is really exciting just to be a part of that stuff. And so I'm excited to see the movie when it releases sometime in the future. Future to be determined. But that project in particular felt like a benchmark for me. Like I really evolved on that project, and that's because of just the art direction that I was getting. And Guy Davis was doing designs, and Guy Davis is also one of Guillermo del Toro's like designers, and so the work that was coming out of him was just really, really cool. And so I was tasked with like bringing that into ZBrush and making it real. And I think, we were all pretty pleased with the result. But so, yeah, having Del Toro sit behind you is terrifying. And it makes
It's fun after having you guys talk a little bit about the way that you like to work. Now seeing you guys restart on a fresh canvas,
Especially after warming up.
Sure. No, but I think just, with a little bit more of understanding of how you were approaching the last one, now seeing you start fresh, it's really cool. I like what you're doing with this guy up here in the upper right hand corner, kind of
that's awesome.
Almost like a Dino Knight or something like that.
Something weird. It's one of those why not concepts.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of art, right? You're never bored.
Yeah. Hey, from your question earlier, we're talking about like exercises. Like something I like to do is when I'm in like my sketchbook, like nothing's off limits. It's just like who cares if this doesn't work, or because you're definitely gonna get that feedback where it's just like, oh, hey, that doesn't make sense. How does this make sense? It's just like, I don't know. I'm just having fun, just to keep creativity awake. I think that's a big thing because this doesn't make sense.
Was that always, because I think that the sketchbook point that you're making and also talking about earlier is really important. Was that difficult for you to access at first, getting into that kind of space of just like, I'm not gonna like overthink this or over criticize myself? Or
definitely, I stopped posting any artwork for like almost like the last 2 years until like fairly recently, just because I got to a point where I was like, why am I even posting this stuff? And I felt like I was more concerned about like the Instagram stuff, the likes, the validation, and it's
right.
Just like, why am I trying to be validated? And I just wasn't having fun anymore. And then I started sketching, and then I got an iPad. Not saying that technology is like an answer; it's just a tool. But having like my own private sketchbook, this is actually the most transparent I've been about my sketches ever. Yeah, and just really just having fun and not worrying about like rendering or anything like that. It's like has been like a huge huge impact on me, and I try to really make sure students understand that.
Yeah, no, I mean and I'm listening to you too, because that's a hard space for me to get into. I think for a lot of people. Something else that's helped a lot is, Kyle, you and I were talking about this actually in class this week, I think. I took your class because I wanted to. I'd been using kind of some safe comfort design zones, some sci-fi and some Star Wars and things like that. But taking your class and really getting into, for lack of a better term, kind of nerding out on your character.
Yeah.
Nerding out on the story and what could be possible and getting that imaginative space has also really helped me to sort of suspend, the feeling of needing to play it safe. Yeah. Right. And do new things and come up with your own original ideas.
And I think with that too, and then for those of you interested in getting in the field and working commercially, like we were talking about this the other day, it's like you have to perform on a dime. So like being able to get in and ask those questions, where sometimes the project time wise doesn't even allow that. I mean, we were on shows where you had to turn around in a couple days or whatever, and you're just trying to grasp the world that you're designing for. So. With that, it's like whatever you can do, kind of like what Marantz said before, like, taking over those other positions and directing that project and kind of putting, wearing those shoes. But like anything you can do to help kind of bolster your process so that it's not like inspiration has to hit. Cause we just don't have that benefit where, you don't get to sit around drinking lattes until you have a eureka moment. You just kind of have to put pen to paper and go. So I think, like you said, with that character thing, and that's one thing that's been great, teaching that class is like actually helping myself too, like kind of go through that or reiterate. So like selfishly, that's the best part of teaching because it's like, I get to work alongside you guys and figure out these things myself too, or kind of go through those same procedures and think about my own character in that way. So yeah, like the conversation we had the other day and going through everyone's thoughts and ideas was really inspiring. So definitely take that into the work that I'm doing.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, and I think there's a lot to be said for what you guys are doing right now. Like just, where you can, making time for just enjoying your art and doing it together with other artists. There's so much that can be gleaned from that, like this amazing battle that it's ensuing in the lower center of the canvas. Wow. So this is, I feel like I don't have a protagonist or an antagonist in this one. I feel like there's an ambivalency.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, JK is definitely the villain, but let's face it.
It's the, what is it, the large head, isn't it? Like villains are the ones with the larger head.
Yeah, the large head.
And yours has a smaller head. So yeah,
absolutely. I'm the good guy. I'm
Right.
the endangered species, and he's the the mechanoid that it's here to destroy me. So I was
and apparently bleeds green blood, which is awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, they're always like nuclear. They're always like nuclear fallout. The result of man's hubris. Man's desire.
I didn't think that you were allowed to share your designs for Kong versus yet.
Yeah, this is JK's a little spoiler alert. Yeah.
Sorry.
Careful, that's going to make the trades tomorrow, and we're all getting into trouble.
Yeah, absolutely.
No.
Yeah, that's the problem with posting right there.
Then you're in trouble.
You guys ever have issues with? I know one of the things that's been going around the internet a bit lately is people, posting someone else's work and being a little ambiguous about whether it's theirs or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's just so many people that it's you can't help it.
Yep.
All you can do is just write your signature very, very big on the image and just stamp it over that thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my experience is that I've never seen a good artist do it, which is kind of funny. Like consistently, when people are taking credit, they're usually not very good.
It's true.
It's the first time you're not that great of an artist. You don't really have to worry about it because people aren't really paying attention. And that's something that took me a while, because it had happened to me a couple of times, and, I'll call people out, and I just realized it's just like, oh, no one's even visiting this guy's, site or art site. It doesn't matter. Why am I getting all, messed up about it? And then when it does happen, if you're working with someone who, or not working, like it's a visual effects based character, and then it just goes to the VFX house, and maybe they tweak the design. If a talented guy gets your piece, your character, they'll drop your name. It happens like every time without fail. Like it happened recently on Lovecraft County. Somebody had the Shoggoth after me, and I'm on ArtStation. I see it, and drop my name instantly. Dude's portfolio was incredible. He didn't need to take credit for something that he didn't completely do himself.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's just the nature of it.
Yep.
Like if you're good enough, you're not going to take credit for somebody else's stuff.
Or even if you're doing the work, right? Like if you're working hard enough at it, you respect somebody else's work too, I think.
Yeah. I feel like it's when people are hungry, and it's the combination of like hungry and lazy. That take credit for other people's work.
Yeah.
But it does happen.
It's like, if you're posting work, credit the artist.
Yep.
Just credit the artist, and just pass it along. Like I appreciate you sharing the work. You should share the work. That's why we love it. That's why we do it. But credit the artist. Like that's what you should do.
Yeah.
Louis, I love this this creature you've started off to the right here.
Oh, thanks.
I really like the shape of the skull you started out with. It's really cool.
Louis is out here doing like cool stuff.
You guys are having an all-out battle over. I thought you guys were joking.
No, man, get in on this. I'm gonna do a little dude here. Just.
Well, and Jared, Marantz, I really like the blue. It looks like almost blue line stuff you're doing over here, but I love it when that the impressions of the lines start to find the weight of it, like you have done with the face here. This is just beautiful. I love that.
Gradually getting darker.
Yeah. Love it.
I haven't had a chance to draw for myself for weeks, maybe months. So I'm really enjoying this. So nobody touch no top hats. Appreciate it.
Right, I hear what you're saying. More top hat.
Oh no! That's a valuable lesson, That's true.
Never say it out loud.
No, I know.
Yeah. Well, now top hats are going to start to become a thing, right?
Yeah.
This is going to be all over social media tomorrow. People putting top hats on people's stuff, posting it, taking credit for the top hat, but not the art.
Like no one's doing Top Hat October. You know what I mean? It's
October.
Nope.
Where is
October's over.
October?
Toptober.
Toptober.
So stupid.
Art v artist.
Art v artist. Artists are art.
I don't think anyone wants to see my picture next to my art.
Your face? What do you mean your picture next to your art?
Yeah, like my face. Like I'm not putting that next to my art.
It's not a bad face, dude.
Are you sure? It's pretty scary.
Dude, I sat next to that face for wasn't that bad? Got me through some days.
There were some days.
Give me some Krichevsky. It's better.
Now, the thing about freelance is I do miss sitting next to my old colleagues in the studio, shooting the shit. That's something that I think is like the hardest thing to give up.
Yeah. Because you look over and you see what they're doing, and then you go and you look back at what you're doing, and you're like, "Oh my god, I'm doing it wrong."
Exactly.
I always like every time I enter on a new job with new artists, and now it feels like I'm about to walk into a room with potentially new lifelong friends. just because in order to get into that room with me or me, them, whatever, we'd have to come from a pretty similar place. So it's kind of wonderful to walk into a space where like, oh, these are my people. This is
I love it.
get along with you guys or girls or whatever.
I'll tell you what, that's what I love about being at Gnomon too. Like everybody's an artist, whether you're teaching or whether you're doing something else. Everybody's an artist, and we're all nerds, and there's a sense of camaraderie that's there, and it creates an energy that you can't fake that. But actually, speaking of freelance, we did have somebody pipe in on the chat just asking for any thoughts or advice you have for freelancers today. Out there. I don't know if the question they didn't mention related to, during the current pandemic. I don't know if they mean just in the times right now or just in general. Those of you who have had a lot of freelance experience, any do's or don'ts or thoughts or reflections you want to share on that regard?
Keep exclamation points to a minimum in your emails.
Let me write that.
I feel like there's a story there.
Fantastic.
Yeah, that definitely feels like there's something there.
Right. You're like,
You were yelling at them all the time.
I don't know about this guy. Let's get excited.
Don't undersell yourself either.
yeah, that's true.
Or
Yeah,
undervalue.
Yeah. Knowing how much you're worth. Yeah.
Yep.
I think when I first started, I was just so excited that anyone would pay me to do this.
Well, there's definitely that. Yeah. They're going to find out the scam any minute.
I think, I haven't worked, this is the first time I've worked full-time freelance, but I think talking to more like seasoned artists, like on a one-to-one basis, so that way you kind of learn like the stuff we just mentioned. I know we're all joking around, but knowing your worth is like a big thing. And if you have a mentor or someone that knows you and your process and how you work well enough, they'll probably be able to recommend a rate. I've known artists to like charge way too low, but having enough experience, you tell them like it's way too low, but they still won't charge that rate because some clients will refuse to like pay that much. They want to find like the most affordable artists, but getting young artists to recognize that if they are very talented and they're taking a very low rate, that means other artists have to kind of go into like a bidding war where they have to lower their rate more than they're used to, because so many younger artists are taking like pretty much little to nothing. I think partnering with like a mentor, I think reading business books is pretty useful, like Rich Dad Poor Dad, and stuff like that, just so you can understand like your finances better. Definitely works, and understanding the taxes behind it and write-offs, all of that works, and negotiating, but you can YouTube a lot of that stuff. So I know it's a lot, but you can YouTube a lot.
Good stuff.
I definitely agree with finding someone that you can actually confide in and tell you what your worth is. Like that's incredibly valuable to have that information when you're freelancing. And I recommend, even if you have like a solid gig, as a freelancer, you have to take on multiple shows. You never know when a show is going to end, and you want that overlap. So it's a tricky thing to be a freelancer and learn how to juggle that stuff. I've technically been a freelancer for like 90% of my career. And even when I had, a steady gig that would last for a while, I always had stuff going on the side, because that's another problem with being a freelancer. If you didn't hear for a while and you turn stuff down, you might not get those calls. It's a tricky thing to really juggle. But yeah, know your worth, know how quickly you are, how fast you are when you work, and also be honest with your clients. I've never lied, because that can bite you if your client thinks that you're only doing their job, then their expectations of you could hurt you. I only ever charge for the time that I work, and so I tend to be very honest, and that's worked really well. People keep coming back. It's hard. It's hard being a freelancer. I personally recommend getting out of school, working at a studio, getting a feel for the industry, building your skill set before you jump out there and go completely freelance. Because it's very hard to build up all of those clients so that you can make a predictable income.
Truth.
I love these two giant robots that are coming in to put an end to the madness in the middle here. No, all of this, all of this is just beautiful. I'm loving watching this whole canvas evolve as you guys are going. So we probably have about another 7-8 minutes. We're gonna at least wrap up the live stream at 10 o'clock. Just so you guys know there. But I mean the canvas is something you're linked to on the cloud, so you guys can feel free to continue drawing. Cool. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, this has just been an awesome hang. It's been so cool. I think really just to let you guys talk to each other. There's so many cool things I'm hearing in the conversation.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, that's been the thing here. Not getting enough friend time with all this going on. So that's one thing I'm trying to get better about, just connecting with everyone.
Yeah, make sure you reach out to your people. Reach out to your friends. And, we're all connected and disconnected at the same time right now. And sometimes just like a, hey, how are you doing? Can mean the world to people. So like reach out and tell people about Poop Cop.
Poop Cop. Thanks for the invite on this. It's definitely been an honor sketching with you guys. Definitely the celebs that I follow. So I definitely feel honored being here.
Oh, dude, your work's amazing, man.
Yeah.
Like, thanks.
Yeah. No joke.
Absolutely. No, this has been fantastic, guys. Thank you. Thank you for the invite.
Oh, and by the way, like the links to the studio that you guys use to get into drawing on each of these canvases, those links, I think Magma has them like remain like online for at least like 10-15 days. So you'll be able to get back to them. Under the file tab, you can actually save these out if you want to save out this session. And then for our viewers, this is also being recorded. So, this stream is going to be available, of course, fairly quickly after we finish tonight on our Twitch channel, but also on our YouTube channel. You'll be able to find that under the videos section to check this out, or if you want to pass it along with someone else, or like I'm probably going to do, come back and watch it again because it's been so much fun. But it's also a really cool context in which to just listen. I think we're learning not only about these guys and their art and their craft, but I think also hearing the stories brings a whole important dimension into it. So I hope it's been as fun for everybody out there as it has been for us who are hanging here on the call. Yeah, I'm sure there's all kinds of interwebs and chats snapping and stuff. But yeah, this has been an awesome hang. And guys, really, for me, this is just, I've been a kid in a candy store, just watching you guys draw, getting to hang out with you. And then one of the things I just love about you guys and about, so many artists out there in the industry, it's just such a generative group of people. Everybody's so generous, so kind, so willing to share and to talk. And I thank you guys for doing that and giving your time tonight.
For sure.
Of course, dude.
It's a blast. This is a blast.
Absolutely.
So much fun.
Absolutely. So I think, in the last few minutes here, I think it's probably good for me to say let's see, there's a couple of announcements that are worth making. The stream will be back up tomorrow morning at 11. I'm going to be hosting and interviewing one of our Gnomon alumni who, only graduated. She just graduated 4 years ago, but she's already working on IPs like The Mandalorian seasons 2 and 3. We're going to talk a little bit about that. You can come back at 11 o'clock tomorrow morning to catch that, or catch it pre-recorded on our platforms. And then a good thing to note, if you like hanging and seeing artists create and kind of enjoying that space, maybe you've been working on some of your own art tonight. It's just kind of nice to have that momentum of other artists in the room. Every Wednesday, Gnomon's Chief Creative Officer, Josh Herman, who's also an industry veteran, he hosts an art jam every Wednesday from about 10 in the morning until 1 in the afternoon. And it's been a really fun time where it's essentially he kind of hosts it and runs it himself, and he's been doing a lot of cool stuff in ZBrush. I think lately he's been actually rolling up characters in D&D online at random, and then starting to sketch out those characters in ZBrush and design them. And of course, he's answering questions in the chat and spending time helping people with what they're curious about with what he's doing. So you're welcome back on Wednesdays to that. And be sure to follow Gnomon on social media to learn more about future events coming up. I think all of you guys have been on the stream before, and we look forward to having you back. I know that we recently did a couple of streams with Kyle and Jerad Marantz, and those are definitely worth going and checking out. But for that, guys, I just want to thank you for tuning in. Thanks for those of you who stayed on through the full session into the wee hours of the night and enjoyed what we see here. And I just say, be safe, everybody. Stay creative, and we look forward to seeing you back here on the Gnomon stream in the near future. So, yeah, thanks, everybody.
Cool. Thank you.
Guys, happy Halloween.
Goodbye.
Have a good